We welcome in the interview room Keith Mitchell. Keith will be making his Masters debut this week. Let's start there. Keith, you secured an invitation to the 2019 Masters tournament after winning the Honda Classic with a birdie putt on number 18, no less, for your first PGA Tour victory. What has the beginning of this week been like for you, and how excited are you to take part in this first Masters? Keith?
This week is something that anyone as a golfer dreams about, and I've been fortunate enough to attend the tournament before and to play here in college when I was at the University of Georgia, but it was very different today walking out on the range and being on the other side. And I thought I was prepared for that moment, but I wasn't. And just walking, I was nervous simply walking across the range. And then I started hitting some putts and some balls and I started feeling better. But this place is just magical for anyone and everyone. And it's been true all the years the tournament's been here. So just being a part of it is truly just a blessing.
As you all know, Keith attended the University of Georgia, lives at St. Simon's Island with several other professional golfers. My next question was, how often have you played here? And you've already answered that. So let's wish you the best of luck this week, and we'll take some questions from the floor. Mark, I think you had your hand up first.
As somebody who's went through a bit of a whirlwind thing at Honda, I just wonder how much you appreciated and had a look at what Corey did yesterday in San Antonio and kind of winning Monday qualifying, getting here for the first time as a pro, and how much, if you have an appreciation for that as well, just because you kind of changed your life quite a bit with the Honda win.
Yeah, I think it's very, very cool in our sport that can happen. And at the time when I was playing against two of the game's greats of Ricky and Brooks coming down the stretch of the Honda and prevailing, and then Corey, who I've obviously heard of. I've played against him my whole life, and he's been an incredible player. But everyone gets their start somewhere, and Corey got his start yesterday. And I think that happens so often in golf, which is so fun. I mean, you look at the best players in the world, they're going to win a couple times a year, but there's 40-something events. There's going to be guys that get their first win every year. And that's what's so great about our sport is the unknown, is that someone that you might have never heard of win this week, and then you might be able to follow them for the next 10 years on tour, and then they might become a household name. And golf is so, honored to have that ability as an individual sport, yet having the same team of the top 10 players in the world probably that everybody can relate to, but then also having another 100 guys that have any chance to win any week.
Keith, Gary.
Yes. Keith, when you're being recruited by Chris Heck, and then while you're at Georgia, how much does he talk about the PGA Tour and winning on the PGA Tour? How much does he address what's out there beyond the college experience? And why do you think it seems like since Bubba started this streak, and the other guys, Kisner, Kirk, you, everybody, what do you think is the common thread to why you guys have had so much success?
I think it's the way he runs the program, which is very unconventional in some people's eyes, but as a player, it's very. I would say it's different, but the most helpful in terms of past college, because he does not ever pick a team. Usually, it's always you just go out and you qualify, and the low 5 scores play in the tournament, and that's how it is in professional golf. You don't have somebody sitting there and saying, well, you had a bad couple rounds in qualifying, we're going to take you anyway. That doesn't happen on the PGA Tour. You have to earn your way by your scores, and that's how he coaches at the University of Georgia. There's no holding hands. There's no qualify for one spot and I'll pick 4. I mean, it doesn't matter who those 5 are. They're going to go. I remember one year, Joey Garber, who actually just got his tour card this year, was ranked the #1 college player in the country, and he didn't qualify that week, and he didn't play. And Hacker sticks to his rules, and it made Joey a better player and it made us a better team. And just because at the time it wasn't the best circumstance, as players that went to Georgia, I think we can all say that it helped us in the long run. And that's what Coach Hack does, is he looks well past your 4 years at college. He's not focused on him and his team at the time. He's focused on each individual player and their success that they're going to have down the road. And I think that's why you have so many guys down here out on the PGA Tour.
Toughness then that you learn.
Yes, and it's more of you have to prove yourself in college as well. And a lot of guys in college, might have a little bit easier road. You don't have an easy road at Georgia. It doesn't matter how good you are. I think Chris Kirk might have missed his first year, as it was one of the best juniors in the country, and didn't play really for a year. But he's won 4 times or 5 times on tour. That's why Coach Hack has such a mindset that's so far past your 4 years at Georgia.
Mark?
Keith, I think when you look at turning points in people's careers, how much do you look back at that tough time you had I think it was at Portland and the web.com tour at the end of that year, and how much have you grown from that, and how much do you look back on it?
Someone asked me if I could have one shot over my career, what would it be? And I always go back to that. But at the same time, I think that was the best thing that happened to me. It gave me some sort of better determination, motivation, I guess, to prove myself. And also it changed kind of my attitude for a whole season. Because if everything comes down to one shot, I mean, I think I saw a stat that said 4,000 something shots the whole season. If I had had one earlier, who knows, in July, and that we were doing it in September, it wouldn't have mattered. So it just kind of gives you a bigger perspective of how important every shot is and how important a Thursday morning round is compared to a Sunday afternoon round. And it's just the nerves and the pressure kind of build up throughout the week, but they all count the same. And very fortunate that happened to me. It happened in an unfortunate way, but I think it made me a better player. And I use that because I don't ever want to feel that feeling walking off 18 at Portland that I did. I want to feel like I walked off 18 at Honda. And I think you can kind of just relate the two in terms of motivation to not do that and motivation to do the one at Honda.
John?
Speaking of, your feeling leaving the Honda, how much of that feeling has kind of, resonated since then? What has remained with you as you head into this Masters that makes you maybe just a slightly different golfer in here than you were, heading into the Honda Classic, now heading into the Masters?
Well, it's fun. I've had a lot of people this week that are still congratulating me on the Honda, and that's well over a month ago. And I think that's pretty cool that there's a lot of people out there rooting for you, that fans that you might have not even known. And just kind of the reminder every week is pretty neat that you won. And some people call you champ, and some people say congrats on the win. I mean, I hope I have that the rest of my life, because it's awesome. It's fun to have people encouraging you. And at the same time, it helps me know that I have handled a pressure situation well before. I'm not saying I'm going to handle all of them well, because each one's going to be very, very different. But it gives you just kind of a sense of security out there when your nerves start going, your heart starts pounding, that you know how to, some sort of way to control it. I know every situation is different. The Masters is going to be a lot different. So, I hope I can just kind of rely on that and see what we can do.
Doug?
The nervousness you talk about when you walked onto the range today, how would you compare that with whatever you felt the first time you walked onto a range at your very first PGA Tour event, and what were the differences?
Very similar, very, very similar. I remember my first PGA Tour event on Monday, qualified into the Valspar Championship when I was on the web.com tour, and it was so, honestly, sometimes I get more nervous on the range because you feel like you're supposed to be relaxed, and you're supposed to just kind of hit some balls and have a good time and talk to your caddy. But it's when you're on the course, I feel like I get in game mode, and it's a little bit more comfortable out there. But today on the range, it's just, it was 9 in the morning. It was kind of foggy, and the whole stands were full. There was probably more people watching me warm up on a Monday here than a lot of tournaments I've played in my life. So that's one part of it. And the other part of it's just I've seen that range from the other side of the ropes before, and I've always watched people and admired how they hit the shots and hit their wedges and the shapes of their drivers, and then I was the guy that people were watching. So I think it's just kind of neat seeing it from the other side.
They're watching you.
No. But I thought they were. I wanted them to.
Zach?
My friend, what are your expectations? Obviously, you teed up on Thursday without expecting to win, but what are your realistic expectations in your first master, and what part of your game must be clicking to contend and be here on Sunday?
Well, every part of your game has to be clicking to be in contention in a major. I mean, I think that's pretty safe to say. However, my course management here is so different than a lot of courses. There's a lot of pins that you can't attack, and there's a lot of pins that you can, and it depends on where you are in the fairway and things. So I think that's why guys that have played here a lot are very successful, because they know the nuances of the course. And I've only really seen it in this condition. I've never really played it in bad condition in terms of weather, like condition-wise, in terms of that. If it's raining, if it's windy, if it's firm. So it's going to be interesting. There's no way to prepare for that unless you've experienced it. And today was more of a point and click kind of golf course in terms of where you want the ball to land and where you want it to finish. And with the weather, it looks like it might rain. It looks like it might get hot. I mean, the golf course can play 4 or 5 different ways. And that means every shot you're hitting into the green is going to be completely different. And I think that's why guys that have been here for so long, they've played all the certain conditions and they know what to do. And I promise you, my caddy and I are probably going to be over some shots, and I hope we're not guessing, but we're definitely going to be looking at that yardage book a lot closer if the conditions change.
Bill?
Keith, you mentioned having attended as a spectator and having played it. How many times do you think each of those occasions, watching and playing the course?
How many times did I attend them, or what did I learn?
How many times did you come as a spectator, and how many times have you played before
A spectator, I was probably here probably 4 or 5 tournaments, and then I've played it 4 times when I was in college, and then one after I won the Honda, I came up here and played a practice round, so 5 times before this week. And the 5th time was the first time I actually was paying attention to where putts were breaking, where I should lay up to. Before, I was just so excited to be on the grounds, I would just hit my shot and go to the next one and try to just soak it all in. And I did a great job of that, but I didn't do a very good job of preparing for the Masters, because you always want to be here, but it's hard to put yourself in that position if you aren't. And then when I came a couple weeks ago, it was a totally different ball game, stepping off stuff and hitting chips from different areas and realizing really how fast some of these putts can be.
Gary?
Keith, what's the most important thing? You were talking about preparation. The most important thing you think you need to achieve before Thursday?
I think getting comfortable out here. I still kind of feel like a rookie and still feel just kind of in awe of the place. And I hope that never goes away, but at the same time, I want to be more comfortable and inside the ropes out here. And that's tough, because the only experience and time can change that, I think. But hopefully, I played 9 holes yesterday, played 9 holes today. I'm hoping by Thursday I'll be ready to go and clicking on all cylinders like any other tournament. But at the same time, it's the Masters, and it's something you dream about. And I've always wanted to be here. And so everybody's saying, enjoy your first trip, have fun, soak it all in. Well, I'm trying, but I'm also playing in the biggest tournament, one of the biggest tournaments in the world. And it's you want to play well. And so I got to try to get in that kind of mentality.
Tom?
Keith, there's no such thing as a typical career arc on the tour, but you've come so far since you've left Athens. Are you reaching your first major ahead or behind schedule, or you anticipated being in this younger?
That's a good question. I never really had any expectations into when I thought I was going to be places. I've had a pretty unique path in terms of my first year out of college. I played on the Latin American tour, and then I played 2 years on the web.com tour, and then this is my second year out here. So I feel like it's been a very progressive path. I feel like I've gotten better every single year, which has led me to being here. It obviously wasn't as fast as some of the other guys. like a Justin Thomas or Jordan Spieth who left college early because they were incredible. I was not incredible in college, and it took me a little bit more time to get out here. But now we're on the same playing field. I mean, they're obviously the resumes are a lot more stacked than mine, but with, you know, on Thursday morning when you tee the ball up, everybody's all square.
Jesse?
Keith, as far as growing up in Chattanooga, you grew up on the honors course. What similarities can you draw from there that could help you out this week in terms of specifically the greens and how difficult and fast they are?
It's the honors when I was growing up was bent, and it was definitely very similar in terms of slopes and the greens. I remember Mr. Lupton was very keen on, very appreciative of Augusta National and tried to make his golf course very similar. And it was different grass, though. We played Zoysia in the fairways, but I remember those when the honors course greens in the fall and the spring were incredibly fast. Now they're Bermuda, which makes them even faster sometimes. But it's the same style golf course in terms of slope, a lot of slope on the greens and a little bit more forgiving off the tee. But I was very fortunate to grow up at a place like that, and it's such a difficult golf course. Because when you play difficult golf courses all the time, you learn that sometimes you do need to stray away from pins. You need to learn to make pars on holes.
Cameron in the back.
Keith, there was a story that went around about you talking to Ian Poulter about match play and sort of, you know, why is he so good at match play? And I was just wondering if there's anybody whose brain you could pick on how to play Augusta or why they're so good at the Masters. Who would that be? And will you actually try to talk to anybody about it?
Jordan Spieth, no question. I mean, he played his first Masters here. I think he finished second, and then he won after that. I mean, that's so unusual for a golf course that people have played experience, and it looks like he's played this place for his whole life. I don't know how he does it in terms of plotting. He's one of the best course managers I've ever seen, and he's, even when Jordan is not at the top of his game, he still seems to have a good finish here. And then when he is on top of his game, he wins. It's really impressive what he does out here. I mean, I remember I was actually here, and then I remember watching him win both times on TV, and it's incredible how you feel like he knows what's going to happen before it happens out there, and that's really impressive considering his amount of time he's played in the Masters.
Practice round with him, or
if he lets me. I mean, Jordan, you want to play?
Yes, sir.
You've had the reputation of being a guy who makes a lot of birdies, a very high-powered game, very aggressive. How much have you had to temper or harness that to have more success, or are you just basically playing the way you did in the past?
This week, I'm trying to put myself in positions to attack, to be aggressive. And if you can do that, then you can make birdies. It's very different than most golf courses where you don't. I remember at the Honda, there was a lot of holes I would just hit to the middle of the green every single time. This golf course is not, because there's so many slopes around the greens and so many different yardages you could have into a hole that you want to try to put yourself in a position where you can attack and you can make birdie. And then if you're out of position, there's always a place that you can, I won't say always, but there's most likely a place that you can get up and down and make par because of the way the golf course is set up. There's no water around, except a couple holes where immediately they're out of bounds or high grass, they're rough that you have to chip out. So I'm trying to plot myself as a way to put my ball in the place that I have the best chance of making birdie. And sometimes that's hitting driver. Sometimes on number 3, I'll probably lay back with the 4-iron if the pin's on the left. And that way I can attack that flag. So it's very different here at Augusta National, where you can play aggressively by laying back in a way.
Let's do a couple more questions. Gary?
Did you ask any veteran players for any specific advice about this week, and did you get any?
I did. I talked to some guys about the tee shot on 13, and it looks like you can take it over the corner, but those trees are so tall, and they run almost parallel straight up until the fairway turns left. So you can't take it over the trees. You actually have to turn it around the trees, and if you turn it too much, it hits the trees and goes in the water. So I tried to hit driver over the trees, and I don't want to say it's impossible because it might go through the trees, but I think it's actually impossible to cover all the trees and cover it unless you start with a draw. Because I hit my driver with a fade, and it just doesn't set up. So I was trying to pick a good line today, and it's going to be a tough tee shot. I'm able to draw my 3-wood a little bit better, so I'm probably going to hit that club off the tee. And then number 3, like I was talking about earlier, where you want to lay back so you can be aggressive to the front left pin. And then, let me think. Number 10 is you don't really have to fly it all the way down the bottom of the hill. You can hit less of a club as long as it's running and lower, and it'll probably catch all the way down to the hill, which it would if it flew down there. So just a couple of things like that guys have mentioned to me that you might not know if you haven't played here a lot.
Who gave you the most help, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean, I've asked probably 15 guys, so no, I didn't have a sit down conversation with anybody about the course really.
Last question, Gary.
Keith, if you win this tournament, Mr. Morris lets you write your own headline.
I told him that he better write nice things about me.
What would it be?
Augusta National wins again.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much. And Keith, good luck